All right, guys, the trade happened. We thought it would, and it actually did. The Utah Jazz have traded Rodney Hood and Joe Johnson. Rodney Hood is going to the Cleveland Cavaliers. Joe Johnson is going to the Sacramento Kings. In return, the Utah Jazz get Jae Crowder. Cleveland will get George Hill. And Sacramento gets Joe Johnson, who they will probably waive. And they also get rid of George Hill's contract. There's some second-round picks that move. I think there's a pick swap between Utah and Cleveland in like 2020, but that's kind of the small, it's not a big deal. But the big part about it is basically a swap of Jae Crowder for Rodney Hood. Rodney Hood had kind of, if you go to Twitter, Tony Jones has kind of reported that the relationship between Rodney Hood and the Utah Jazz had kind of come to an end. There wasn't really going to be a future between the organization and Rodney Hood. Sometimes that just happens between a team and an organization. It just can happen. Rodney Hood is also a restricted free agent and would be going into free agency and getting offers on an open market. And it was not clear that the Jazz were going to want to match. Let's say Rodney Hood gets a big time offer from like some random team like Orlando or Phoenix or somebody. It's like $15 million. And do you want to be paying that? The Jazz probably did not when you consider we have Rudy Gobert, Donovan Mitchell, Joe Ingles, and, now we've got Jae Crowder on a very friendly contract. This means the Jazz are open to re-sign Dante Exum, and they can bring someone over in free agency. And don't think that that's not a very big possibility for the Jazz. The Jazz now have a player like Donovan Mitchell who can bring in a lot of interest, and there will be free agents that will say, you know what, if I'm about winning, I'm going to come to the Utah Jazz because I get to play with Donovan Mitchell, who is a fantastic, combo guard scoring superstar, and then you have Rudy Gobert behind you who will protect the rim. The Jazz get Jae Crowder now, who can start for them at the wing. You can bring Joe Ingles off the bench if you want. You could even do some things with Jae Crowder at the power forward. The Jazz get a lot of options with Jae Crowder, and I know he's kind of fizzled in Cleveland a little bit, but what we do know with Quinn Snyder is he brings the best out of players. And so we're probably going to be looking at Boston Jae Crowder. For the Cleveland Cavaliers, it's a pretty big-time trade. They get George Hill and Rodney Hood. That's pretty good. And they're going to have the other trade that Cleveland got before that was they traded Isaiah Thomas for Larry Nance and Jordan Clarkson. The Cleveland Cavaliers kind of did a good job with this. If you look at their starting lineup now, you've got LeBron, Rodney Hood, let's see, Jordan Clarkson if you want, Kevin Love, Larry Nance. You've also got Tristan Thompson. You've got some depth there. Really nice. The Cavs might have done some things that will make LeBron happy, and they get to keep their big-time Brooklyn pick. So Cleveland did well with this trade. Sacramento was an integral part of this trade, but what they get to do is get out from under the George Hill contract. They can now give all the minutes to De'Aaron Fox, and they can roll. If Joe Johnson is probably going to be able to sign with a playoff team of some sort, so Joe Johnson's happy. He gets buyout and then gets to sign somewhere else, Or maybe they just play him. Who knows? But nice job for Dennis Lindsey, by the way. So the Jazz have cap space. They have a nice wing. The Jazz had originally tried to get Jae Crowder when Hayward had gone to Boston, and the Jazz had kind of tried to figure out a way because they had to clear space and try to get Crowder. And so that contract is nice. You get him for like 2 years at really low rate. So the Jazz have money. They can now sign Dante Exum with comfort. They can also go out in the free market and find somebody. And we keep our first-round pick. And we'll get to pick someone in the draft. And we make the playoffs. So it's pretty great. Dennis Lindsey's shown himself to be a wizard right now, doing really, really, really well. Let's see. Jeff Shikoto Maluenda. He's a good six-man. It's all about the possible financial issues they will face in the future. It does fix... the Jazz have the best cap situation as anyone in the league. They have their best players on good contracts, and they have their role players on manageable ones. The Alec Burks contract's not the greatest. It's a little big. But you know what? Next year, they can trade that for cap relief for someone else. And Alec Burks is a contributor. It's not like Alec Burks is sunk money. He's played better this year. But the Jazz are going to have players like Royce O'Neal on like a $1-point-something million deal for 3 years. That's incredible. Just the bargain they are getting. And then Jae Crowder, who I believe is going to play really well under Quinn Snyder, whether he starts and Ingles comes off the bench or vice versa. I actually kind of like the idea of Jae Crowder starting, because that allows Joe Ingles to not have to play more than like 26, 28 minutes. It feels like if he plays more than that, he kind of wears down. So you get efficient Ingles with Jae Crowder. And then at the same time, you can also, what I love also is playing Jae Crowder at the power forward at times. So when Favors comes off the bench, you can just slide Crowder over to the 4, bring in Joe Ingles, and you've got a small ball team with Rudy in the back. And that's exciting, actually, to think about. That's really exciting. Andre Gio Garcia, will LeBron be traded? Nope. He'd have to waive his trade clause, and we're past the trade deadline anyway, and so LeBron's going to be a free agent. LeBron has to be a little bit happy with this. I feel like this was a savvy move for the Cavs. They did some nice things, got some young talent. Rodney Hood's not the greatest defender. If Cavalier fans are hoping for a better defender, they're not going to get it. He's an okay defender. He's not terrible, but he's not good either. He's an average defender, which is fine. And he's a spot-up three-point shooter. And so with LeBron, he's going to get the ball to Rodney, and he's going to hit shots. And I feel like the biggest fit for the Cavs is George Hill. He is a perfect fit next to LeBron because he's a combo guard that can shoot. We knew it here in Utah. It's the same idea. He played off of Gordon Hayward. Now he plays off of LeBron, and he hits open threes at like 40%. And he can handle and run a pick and roll too if you need him to. So really nice pickup for the Cavs, honestly. George Hill and Rodney Hood, you could do a lot worse. And they kept their first round. They kept the Brooklyn pick. So shout out to the Cavs who did a really nice job, And shout out to the Kings good guy Kings for helping this go. You got rid of George Hill's contract, which is a really bad one, by the way. So the Cavs are taking on that contract. And who knows if Rodney Hood stays beyond this year, but they at least get him for the remainder of the year, get his shooting. He has some playmaking. We all know Rodney Hood really well. By the way, I'm going to miss Rodney Hood. He's a good guy. It seems like it was kind of the end of the road between him and the Jazz. Sometimes that happens. But really great guy, great family man. He has a great family. Just overall, represented the Jazz really well. Nothing bad to say from me about Rodney Hood. He was, there are times where he's kind of a streaky shooter, but when he was on, he helped us win games. I know I could count you 3 games he won for the Jazz this year with his shooting. So big time stuff. Let's see. I think LeBron asked that IT trade for 1 or 2 year extension. Maybe that's another thing. This IT stuff has been crazy in Cleveland, and who knows what kind of locker room problems were going on. Locker room stuff is always going to be a part of these things sometimes. There are things that go on that we don't even know about, honestly. And once in a while I hear things about Jazz locker room, but for the most part, that stuff keeps within the locker room and we don't know about it. It could have been really bad. From everything you heard, it was pretty bad. So they needed to make a trade, and they got, Larry Nance, a nice young big man. He could play a really nice center spot next to LeBron. The more I think about it, the more I like it. That's kind of their defensive stalwart. Tristan Thompson has not been playing as well this year. And so having Larry Nance, who can play good enough defense and rebound and finish shots from LeBron, that's nice. How long is Crowder's contract? I am not 100% certain. Let me know in the comments, guys, what the contract is if you want. But I believe it's at least through next year. And it's very, very reasonable contract. So it's very nice. He's a nice three-point shooter. Let's pull up the stats a little bit with Jae Crowder. I know, he has not been playing as well in Cleveland. Their defenses have been terrible, and that can be attributed to a lot of things, but I think it's just there's just problems in Cleveland that you're not going to be able to overcome all the time, and it might be nice for him to get a new spot. But off the bat, you see Jae Crowder is an 84% free throw shooter, shooting 32% from 3. Last year he shot 39%. So that's interesting. We'll see how that goes. If he's hitting shots for the Jazz at the rate he was for Boston, that's huge. If not, might see Ingles starting. So I guess we'll find out. But either way, the Jazz have made a big-time trade that they had to make. If you didn't trade Rodney Hood, you were going to lose him for nothing. Getting Jae Crowder is something for nothing. And the Jazz, actually, how well they've played, 7 wins in a row, are now very much looking at a playoff spot. If we don't have this win streak and we lose 5 or 6 of the last 7 instead? Do the Jazz make this trade? Maybe, but they might have been looking for other things, just like pure picks or something like that. Let's see, Josh Patterson. Next 2 years, next, and year after that, I believe. Could be. It could be 3, could be 2. I know it's a great contract, though. It's a fantastic contract. It's one of the best values in the league. He hasn't been playing as well. You know, he's shooting 32, 33% from 3 this year. So, you know, maybe it just matches now. But if he can get up to 36% from 3, all of a sudden it looks really, really good. Crowder will play like Tabo 3 or stretch 4. Exactly. That's kind of what he's going to play. And that's going to be nice. It just provides versatility for Quinn, because we kind of had a glut at the guard spot. You have Ricky Rubio. You have Donovan Mitchell. You're going to have Dante Exum coming back soon, which actually might play into this. I wouldn't be surprised if that's actually a part of this too. Dante's going to come back and play combo guard, whether it's 1 or 2. And that's just, you know, Rodney hasn't really played the small forward spot very much. And now we've got another wing that can either play in front of Ingles or behind him, and that can slide over to the power forward spot. He's just versatile. He'll probably play 25 minutes a game, at least, you know, and valuable minutes. And I think Quinn's system can make him play really well. Brandon Whiteside's bad move. Maybe. I don't know what else you're expecting. No one was giving up first-round picks, and no one was going to give up a first-round pick for Rodney Hood or Derek Favors, which, by the way, we get to keep Derek Favors, so we can continue to have the top 5 defense that we have that's helping us win these games. But, I mean, if you're expecting anything more, I mean, where was it coming from? You know? Orlando just traded Elfrid Payton, and they got a second-round pick. A starting point guard, second-round pick. I don't know what else we were going to get. He's been bad for Cleveland, but they also have a very bad coach and a bad chemistry. So I don't know. Sorry, Cleveland. Don't hate on me too much. But yeah, I'm excited about the trade personally. I just think the Jazz had to make a move. You know, people who say it's a bad move, I don't think it's a great move. You know, we didn't get like an all-star, but at the same time, we were talking about this 4 or 5 years ago when we traded Millsap, and we didn't trade Millsap and Al Jefferson, and we got nothing. We're left with nothing. Like, so like Willy Wonka says, you get nothing. We don't want to be left with nothing, you know? You get something. Jae Crowder. That's a tradable contract too, by the way, guys. That's a very tradable contract. Jae Crowder could be traded in the offseason during draft night, you know? That's something that could happen, or next year, or whatever. That's a very, very friendly contract that can provide relief to some teams. So I'd rather have gotten Stanley Johnson. At least he is younger. I wouldn't mind Stanley Johnson either, but he might not have been for sale. You know, those things might be smokescreens. One thing about these trades, and I once in a while hear stuff, once in a while about these trades, the GMs, they posture, you know. They put out information. They say, oh, so-and-so is getting interest, you know. So-and-so is getting looks from other teams. And then you'll see Adrian Wojnarowski, tweet that. A lot of times what that is, that's just a GM putting that out there to find out what they can get back. That's a subtle way of a GM just kind of testing the water and seeing what people would offer, you know. And I'm guessing that Stan Van Gundy decided that the offers he was getting for Stanley Johnson weren't good enough. And I'm guessing he did not want to bring on Rodney Hood on, you know, for whatever reason, he didn't want to bring in Rodney Hood. You know, it takes 2 to make a trade, guys. Sometimes that's just the way it is. Actually, that's a big part. Bo James Turner, the money we're saving is huge as well. Exactly. You guys, honestly, like the Jazz were able to bring over Joe Johnson with Gordon Hayward and Rudy Gobert. What kind of free agents are going to be interested to play with Donovan Mitchell and Rudy Gobert? Donovan Mitchell, who gets high fives from players like LeBron James and Russell Westbrook and Paul George and all these stars in the league. Like after the game, they come up to him. That shows interest, you know. The Jazz might very well be in play to get a guy in the free agency. And don't forget that the Jazz might be able to, you know, do some things in the draft. They might be thinking, you know what, we can trade this in the draft and move up to get a few spots, you know. There might be a team out there, if there's a player the Jazz like on the board, and there's another team that's not as sold, and the Jazz say, hey, we'll give you Jae Crowder in our first round to move up 5 spots. You know, if the Jazz make the playoffs this year, we're going to be a 16 to 20 pick. You know, if Donovan Mitchell was picked at 13, if there's someone at 13 to 18 and you want to move up a couple spots to get him, Jae Crowder might do it. You know, there's all sorts of things. So it's just a very valuable contract. Right now, there are so many teams that are just strapped for cash because they overspent. Dennis Lindsey did not. You know, the only contract was kind of an overpay with Alec Burks, but you can't even really argue that because he's been injured so much and never really got to develop. So big time stuff for Dennis Lindsey. I actually feel like the Cleveland Cavaliers did a really nice job as well. Got some nice players. Crowder wasn't working. Rodney Hood may. We'll find out. And they get George Hill. He's such a perfect fit with LeBron. He is such a perfect fit. So that's exciting. Hi, Eric. My name is actually James Tyler, but if you see Eric in the my name is James, guys. You can follow me at Hanson James. Speaking of this, like and subscribe this video, guys. We'll be talking about these and other things that happen with the Jazz and the NBA in general. Go to slcdunk.com to also read all the articles about it because we're covering it all. Make sure that you like this Facebook video and share it with your friends. And also like us on Twitter and Instagram and follow us. We'll be covering all these things for a long time. Again, I'm Hanson James on Twitter. You can follow me there. I will talk to you later.